Lerner, BrooklynPhotoWorks.com, and today we are filming episode 2 of The Machine in the barn with my good buddy Larry Milburn. Larry, as you know, is from RoadieFreeRadio.com, a fantastic podcast about the music business and all the insider stuff.
Yep.
And he's also from Milburn Media Arts, which is his media company. Larry's a filmmaker. So for those of you guys that are just tuning in, this show is about Larry and I kind of just talking about the biz.
Talking about the inner workings of the biz, the day-to-day.
The machine.
The grind, the machine.
Yeah. Well, you know, look, we could call it the grind, but somebody's already been there.
Yeah.
But this is the machine. And it really is about all the inner workings, like how everything kind of fits in together to make our businesses work. Me as a photographer, Larry as a filmmaker, and obviously both of us have a lot of cross-pollination in our two pursuits. We're also both musicians, so there's a lot of that influencing what we do. I know that music influences what I do.
Absolutely.
In fact, I've even talked about in the past how I see light as some people hear sound. I think the properties kind of...
it's deep, man.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it's really crazy because music is my first language. I mean, even though I'm a photographer and a visual artist, music is really kind of where my mind is at. I kind of... I've got what do they call it? The earworm?
Yeah, the earworm.
Where music's constantly playing in your head.
Yeah,
like, I can't do anything. Or if I hear like a repetitive kind of percussive sound, like all of a sudden like something else starts playing and the soundtrack is always going in there.
Yeah.
But I've talked about light, like, and as in sound, like if you strum a guitar, you know, with a really percussive, you know, like a hard kind of like attack on the strum, it's going to really give like a really huge projected sound, which is going to die off very quickly. It's the same thing with light. You know, light can be really harsh. If you have a really big burst of light, it's going to punch the light and then it's going to trail off.
Right.
Whereas if you kind of gently stroke the strings and then you've got some like reverb or delay, it's going to kind of wash along and it's going to last a while, just like if you were to take, like, let's say a garden hose and you put your thumb over the end of the garden hose and you get like that nice spray.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's a weird...
We could just keep going with the metaphors.
I could just riff on this thing all freaking day, man. But you know, look, everybody has their own personal language and their way of seeing things. And like when you look at the properties of light and you look at how light is hitting somebody or falling off of somebody, I kind of relate it to music, you know, as far as like...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know, it's a totally freaking bizarre piece of shit.
That's... I get what you're saying, though. Makes perfect sense. But the key is that music for you is the heartbeat, as it is for me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that, to be honest, I mean, music comes incredibly naturally to me.
Yep.
I'm by no means a virtuoso.
Right. But you're a pretty damn good guitar player.
Speak for yourself there,
Don't let him fool you, folks.
You know. Anyway, but, you know, I realized at an early age that I could literally, like, you know, hear a song and literally kind of see the notes or, like, see where it is in the guitar. I could pick up the guitar after hearing a song and my hand would go right to where... you know, write the key.
Yeah.
And like if there was like a little solo, I remember like, you know, sitting there and like figuring out like U2 licks because the Edge always played like those really kind of musical, kind of sparse.
Well, it's funny you said that guy in context of talking about light.
Exactly, because I've always been attracted to that real wash. I mean, even as a musician, I like to find notes and melodies and sounds that kind of like work within the stratosphere of the musical piece. In that, sure, it's, you know, the glory, like the Slash, the guy on top, you know, doing those like crazy leads. I've decided that I'm not a virtuoso. I'm not one of these guys that can just rip and wail, you know, all day long. You know, I got my moments, but that's not my thing. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to find these soundscapes and kind of embed myself in there, playing off harmonies of vocals or bass or other guitars or other instrumentation. And it's probably a lot of that mentality, I think, is probably floated into the way I am so attracted to lighting and manipulating, you know, mixing artificial light with natural light and ambient light.
Yep.
So, you know, I'm sure that the pursuits go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there that have other pursuits that also influence your photography or your filmmaking as well.
Yep. I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever find yourself kind of thinking of another pursuit in relation to your content creation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Well, certainly music is always there, as it is, for you. And but thinking about another pursuit actually helps shed light on the one that you love to do.
Yeah.
It gives you a little space away, and
well, I think that,
give you some perspective.
I think it is even like we touched on it the last episode when you talked about how you put on George Harrison's All Things Must Pass.
Right.
And it instantly took you somewhere. And I think that sometimes as creative people, we need these escapes and we need these things to influence us, to give us the motivation to say, you know what? Get off your fucking ass and do shit. Because George Harrison, how old was he when he did that record?
I mean, maybe 30?
Maybe.
Yeah.
And the thing's a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah, it's insane.
Right. So look, not all of us can be George Harrisons, and the music business doesn't really support that kind of artist development any further. But, there's a huge platform for content creation.
Definitely.
And getting your work out there. I mean, let's segue into the whole film thing.
Okay, let's do it.
So I don't know if you guys have been...
Speaking of textures.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I don't know if you guys have been following the news, but just this week, Kodak announced that it is going to be reintroducing Ektachrome, which is their slide film.
Right.
And not only are they reintroducing it for photography in a 35mm photography format, they're also reintroducing the film for Super 8, I believe.
Okay.
Or for video.
Okay.
Jesus, we should really know our facts.
We should know our facts.
We'll put a link in the thing. There's actually kind of sketchy details. I mean, all that I really have is like a press release from Kodak that came from Rochester, and then every other blog that's picked it up.
Rochester or Russia?
Russia. Yes, it was WikiLeaks. Actually, Julian Assange called me.
Oh, nice.
On the private phone. The
red
phone,
right.
Yeah, in the Batcave. I mean,
we digress.
All right. Well, look, you're a guy who digs analog. I mean, I know you have vintage amps, you have vintage guitars, you have vintage film cameras that I believe were in the family.
Yeah, I've got my mom's Nikon camera from must be the late '60s, early '70s.
Right.
And then my father-in-law's Canon, the EF1, wasn't that like the cloud? Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, they're nicely...
And the lenses that accompany both of those.
And they're nicely collecting dust in your office. But
no, sometimes I throw the adapter on to the 5D and I'll shoot with those. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which we could also digress. I mean, a lens is a lens, and a good glass is great glass. And the only difference is that if you're using an old lens that doesn't have all the electronic contacts, you can't really meter for it, but you can still use the shit out of it, especially for filmmaking. But as a filmmaker, I think you were telling me something about how you actually shot one of your films on film?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. My first short, Roadie.
Okay.
I shot on 35mm film on a lot of short ends that were given to us.
Now, what's a short end?
A short end is like an extra bit of film from a shoot that wasn't used. Okay. Right? So
I understand. So you're buying stock. So there's a little bit from the reel that hadn't been used.
Exactly.
And then you can utilize that.
Yeah.
Throw it in.
You can still shoot it. Yeah.
You can still shoot it.
Yeah, it's still totally fine.
Wow.
And so we got...
I have no idea.
I can't remember. Maybe 20 or 30,000 feet of short ends. Something
What does
crazy.
that equate to in hours of filming? Like ballpark.
Well, we shot for 5 days, and the film, and the film ended up being 15 minutes long. So,
wow,
I mean, obviously you overshoot that, so it was a healthy amount, and I think a lot of that came for free.
Let me ask you something.
Yes.
Well, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's
but
all right.
I just want to make sure that is this something that these folks can look at online? Is this available?
The film Roadie, yes, of course, you can watch the film Roadie, not the film Roadie with Meatloaf. Not the film Roadie that came out 4, 5, 6 years ago.
Oh, right.
Roadie, a short with Larry Milburn. You can go to my website, roadiefreeradio.com, hit the red film button, and it'll take you right there to it.
And then
it's a fun little it's an homage, not a parody. It's an homage to Top Gun, towed through the world of roadies.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Funny
it's totally worth watching, and it's only a 15-minute watch, so it's...
Yeah, it's a quick, if you don't like it, stop watching.
Hey.
But here, I'll tell you exactly why I did it on film. Because I was trying to emulate the late, great Tony Scott, film director of Enemy of the State, Top Gun, Days of Thunder, great movies, great filmmaker. And so I was trying to emulate his look in a way. But at the time, let's see, this was 2003, 2002.
Okay.
And my producers are like, we got to try to shoot digital because it's going to be cheaper.
Of course.
Even though they knew, like, hey, we can get to someone who's going to give us short ends.
Absolutely.
Let's budget out and see what it'd be to do it on film. And we went to a bunch of seminars and whatnot. And at that point, it was just on the cusp. I mean, now you could shoot something digitally.
I remember that. Like, there was some photographers that were like absolute holdouts to film.
Yeah.
And then there were the early adopters that were just like, yeah, fuck it. You know, I'm not getting bogged down with this shit. I'm going to be the first.
Today, you could shoot something on, digitally and very easily make it look like film.
Really?
Yes. Back then, it wasn't quite.
You mean like put a filter on it?
Right. It wasn't quite as easy back then. So. Yeah. And I really wanted that look. That was important.
Now, what was the look? Is the film does it have more density? Is the color different? Like,
yeah, it's a bit more poppy, and basically you smoke up a room. You smoke the hell out of a room, and then fan it out, and then that helps just diffuse everything and give it a nice texture.
I love the look of that. I do.
It's so cool, man. And if you get shaft of light coming through that.
You said shaft.
I did say shaft.
That's right.
It's tough. It just looks beautiful. It has a real texture to it.
It's a real cinema. What do you call that
cinematic
word?
Quality.
Cinematic quality. Hey.
But to sell the idea of what I was going for, that needed to be there.
Right.
I mean, I could have shot a more campy, sort of reality TV looking type of thing.
But you gave it a treatment.
That's what I wanted to do. I gave it a treatment. That's what I wanted.
I love that. And look, you recall that when we first really got together and started working together. Yeah. When I did that video with Jackie in the garage downstairs with the vintage motorcycle, that kind of like...
You got a smoke machine.
Exactly. I got a smoke machine to give it that diffused look, which a lot of people do in post-processing.
Yeah.
But some of the images that came out of that just had like that really beautiful diffused quality, yet perfectly tack sharp focus.
Yep.
And it just gave it a nice treatment. And I was really happy with the results. I actually loved the way it looked. I mean, it's a little hairy at times.
Right.
Because it's hard to kind of control that smoke in any kind of environment.
Yeah. Well, again, it's sort of like the recording process, right? In terms of where are you placing a mic in relation to a speaker cabinet, what size of speaker, and all that kind of stuff.
You're getting real technical.
Because what's it going to do to the sound waves and the vibrations, right? How is it going to be affected before it gets to the mic face? Same thing with light and film.
Wow.
You know what I'm talking about.
It's not like in phase or out of phase and shit?
Well, it can get into that shit.
Right.
But but think about it, right? Yeah. Air has a certain quality, and air temperature has a certain quality.
Humidity.
And if you throw humidity, you throw some smoke into that.
Boom.
You get some magical shit.
Yeah, man.
Right?
I hear you. Yeah.
So smoke them up and shoot away.
It's 420 all the time.
It is absolutely.
Well, look, that's really interesting. And
so you're fired up about them bringing this shit back? Are you going to start filming on this?
I have a shit ton of film cameras. I started on film. I learned on film. My very
high 8, Super 8s. What you got?
Well, honestly, my dad had an old Nikon Super 8, and I don't know what happened to it. It kind of like over the years it disappeared. Yeah. I don't even know if it'd still be viable.
Right.
I actually haven't really shot any. Well, I shouldn't say that. No, I've done a little bit. I played around with a Bolex a bunch of years ago, and
I'd love to get my hands on a Bolex, 16mm Bolex.
Oh, dude, seriously!
And go shoot a cool little.
The look
film.
of that shit is just ridiculous. But you're also the combination of the lenses and the whole deal.
Yeah, right.
But for me, I'm really excited about the fact that film is not completely dead.
Yeah.
I have a shit ton of film cameras. I love the look of it. And the thing that's fantastic about Ektachrome is it is so forgiving. You can shoot it up to 1/10,000th of a second. The color is vibrant, it's punchy, and the cool thing is that because it's a positive film and it's a slide film, it makes it super easy to scan. Because oftentimes when you're shooting, negative film, like what do you call it? Just the freaking roll film. It curls, and like if you have if you don't have like a really high-end scanner. You're going to have different, gradations of how it's sitting flat unless you have like a real slide. The slide film is a lot easier to deal with.
Okay.
You can scan it really well. Look, I'm just excited about that.
That's awesome.
The thing is that, like you were saying before, most people out there, they're just using Visco and other treatments, or they're just going into Photoshop and they've got all these different, curves and things set up to kind of give an emulated film look. So it comes down to more of the practice. Right. And the technique and the deliverables. Like, do you have the time and the resources and the budget to shoot something completely and entirely on film? And is that going to achieve you the result?
Yep.
And whatever the goal, or can you just shoot it digitally? And this is a huge question. I think a lot of people ask this question.
And that question has not gone away in 15, 16, 17 years, right?
And now that they're reintroducing Ektachrome, it actually means that the question has not gone away.
Yeah. Well, I think it also went from everybody's shooting on film, that's the way to do it, and the purists wanted that, and then this other, thing came along that was cheaper, and people could get into making films that was accessible.
Right.
And there was that push and pull against the two.
Yep.
Now I think there's more of a generally accepted thing of it's like, what type of lens do you want to use for this shot, right? It's basically like, what kind of tool? It's just another tool. Right? In my storytelling. Hey, I'm going to make this film. I have the opportunity to shoot it on film. I think shooting it on film will, push my story a little better than if I do it digitally.
Well,
I can make it
that film that recently came out that spanned like 17 years with the same cast of people?
17. No.
No.
The guy. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll come up with the name in a minute. But
that's gonna bug me.
But because it was shot over 20 years, and it was originally shot on film, they shot the whole fucking thing on film all the way throughout.
Patricia Arquette was
exactly.
in it.
That's
Ethan
right.
Hawke was in it.
Yep.
Oh boy.
Damn.
Yeah, the comments are gonna start.
Oh, dude, you guys are just gonna light this shit up.
Crush us right now on this one.
We can't even complain that it's cold in here today. Anyway.
Yes.
But the cool thing about it is that the director stayed true to the format, whereas he probably could have gone digitally and done treatments and whatnot. But he had the time, he had the budget, he had the resources, and he had the wherewithal to just keep it in that regard.
Well, and he also was only shooting like 1 week a year.
Oh, hey,
something.
I love that schedule.
Yeah, right. That's nice.
You got 51 weeks at the beach and 1 week of shooting.
Boom,
boom. Damn. Maybe 50 weeks because you got to have a week for editing.
You have to have a week for editing and maybe some pre-production, maybe.
What else have we got? So, one of the questions I think that comes up often is, does shooting film make you a better shooter? Does it make you a better filmmaker? Does it make you a better photographer? Because some people will argue that when you're shooting film, you're metering, you're doing things a lot more manually. You're not relying on chimping on the back of your camera. You've only got 36 shots to get the thing done before you have to change film. There's a lot of variables going on. Obviously, there's film cameras that span the range from ones that are fully manual to fully automatic. That have the A button on there.
Does it make you better? Well, what do you think?
Look, there's going to be purists out there. There's going to be people that are going to be like, oh yeah, man, film is where it's at because it's such a pure form, it's fine art, blah, blah, blah. Look, I get it. I'm not on anybody's side here. I love the look of film. I love the whole feel of it. But then if you're going to take your film that you shot with your, vintage, super fantastic fucking camera that was so rare that you had to go to Germany to find it, you take those images and you scan them in and you put them on Instagram, it's like, okay, it's going to have a look. It's going to be different than something that was shot with an iPhone or with a 5D probably. But think about the delivery, unless you're printing that shit, and even if you are, I mean...
You want to know my thoughts? I'm going to tell you my thoughts.
Yeah, I was really kind of wondering that, wasn't I?
Yeah, I gotcha. Here's what it is.
Wrap
it
up.
Think.
Bring it in.
I think if you want to be serious about your craft, it would behoove you.
Wow.
Okay, to spend some time shooting that way. Maybe not on a job, but take an older camera, a film camera, where you can't take the shot and see it automatically on the back. and go out and spend a couple days shooting some things and see what you get.
Yep.
You know, it's like what I was talking with someone the other day, and they said that the problem with Siri giving us directions is that we're starting to lose that part of our brain where we can find our directions on our own, right?
Well, it's like spelling and grammar too.
Right, exactly. So same sort of thing. So, you know, you have to exercise that part of your brain. And it also helps you understand what the fuck it is you're doing, because you can turn a bunch of shit and get the right look on your viewfinder, but when you take a picture and you don't know what it's going to look like for another 5 hours till you get back to the darkroom, or maybe another week till you get the shit, you know,
processed.
Thank you. It's been so long, I forgot what it's called. I would say exposed.
Boyhood.
Boyhood.
Boom.
Now, who's the director? God damn it.
All right, keep going.
I love that guy.
So anyway,
Austin, Texas.
Linklater.
Richard Linklater.
Yep.
High five for that shit.
Boom.
All right, we got it. We're back.
Woo.
So, you know what I mean? So that's important, I think, to go do. And even on film, if you can get your hands on a Bolex, go shoot a short film on film.
Hey, get your hands on my Bolex.
Get your hands around my Bolex.
Yeah, just wrap them right around here.
But you know, that's what I think. I think you should do that. Or fucking put some gaff tape over the back of your your viewfinder.
Well, you can turn the thing.
Turn the shit off.
You can turn the monitor off on your.
And think about, because again, it also helps you really think about what you're doing. You know.
Well, you know what it is. This is a great, excellent point.
Thank you.
It's a great, wonderful, excellent, amazing, fantastical point.
Yeah.
No, really. What I let me slow it down a little bit.
Yeah, take a breath.
You know, the example I'll use is like when I went to Cuba, and. I was there with a whole bunch of photographers, and as soon as you get out of the plane and you get into Havana, like you're just like, right. Everyone is just like just consuming every aspect of things and not taking anything in.
Right.
Because you just have this compulsion that you want to like capture every second of everything because it's so unique, so beautiful, so different, so interesting, and you don't want to not have a document of it.
Yeah.
And interestingly, we got together and we decided, you know what, let's all, at the end of like 5 days in this trip, let's all convene in the evening and show a portfolio.
Wow.
Everybody is tasked with a portfolio of 6 images only. Okay.
You could only take 6 that day?
No, you had to present your 6 images.
Okay.
There was no conditions. It wasn't thematic. It wasn't your worst, your best. It didn't matter. Yeah. But everyone had the task of presenting their 6 images, and we were going to all sit in a room with them up on a gigantic screen with an LCD projector, and everybody's portfolio was going to be shown.
That's awesome.
And this like really fucked my shit up. I mean, it just sent me for a loop. I mean, I was just like, just slapped left and right. What it actually did is it taught me right then and there to slow the fuck down.
Right.
Because I realized that I was so amped up. And then I realized that once I slowed down and I went out to shoot, and I would bring, like you said, I would bring one camera and one lens. I'd bring like my Nikon and the 85 millimeter, and I'd be like, this afternoon, that's all the fuck I have on me.
Right.
I'm not gonna be sitting there with a camera bag and stumbling around and trying to switch lenses and being like, oh my God, I gotta get this and get that. And like, I'm like, this is my focal length today.
Right.
And then like the next time I went out, I would just take the Fuji X100 with the, which is a fixed 35 millimeter, you know, and I would just, that would be it. And I'd be like, I'm gonna have to get really close. And I'm gonna crouch down, I'm gonna get right up into my subject. I'm gonna peek my head right into where it needs to be.
Yep.
And I can tell you that it was the best thing that I've ever done. And I actually took that mentality and I use it as much as I possibly can, no matter when I shoot and where I shoot, is slowing this whole thing down and realizing that quantity doesn't mean shit.
Right.
It's quality, and it's also your mentality and your headset. And then when it finally came time to sharing my portfolio, I had reached a level of shooting in the few days that I'd been doing it where I had a thematic thing.
Right.
I actually had something where I wanted to deliver a portfolio that had an arc to it.
Yep.
That the images had some consistency as far as the way they looked. They weren't all the same thing, but there was definitely something that tied the whole thing together and made it one cohesive unit. So what I took away from that was exactly what we're talking about, is just slowing the shit down, and sometimes you need to task yourself with something that simplifies your process so that you can be in command of it more, and then start adding the other shit.
Right. Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
So do that.
Yeah. Well, it's like when people ask me about lighting, it's like, oh, I bought this lighting kit and it's got like 2 flashes and stands. And I'm like, dude, just take the one freaking light and start and learn how to do one light. Okay. Once you master one light, then add another light, and then add another light. But there's to set up like 5 lights in one shoot and think that you can suddenly just nail it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna go fucking crazy. What else?
What else we got?
What else we got?
You got? I don't know. You got a light thing? We got a list here.
We got a fantastic list.
Lens.
Oh, that takes us to lens.
I love lens.
Lens love.
Lens love.
Well, no,
what do we got?
Seriously, what Larry and I were talking about is, and what we've been asked, like some of the comments that we've had for the show is, what's your favorite lens?
What's your favorite lens?
What's your favorite lens? I mean, we touched on this a little bit last week.
Don't touch my lens.
Oh, wait.
Get your hands
Get
off my
glass.
lens. Oh,
get your hands off my glass.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, you peed in my glass.
Wow. Well, what is your favorite lens?
It really depends. Like, for example, the 7200 2.8L version 2 Canon lens, I just call that lens butter.
Butter. Get me the butter.
It's tack freaking sharp, and it's everything looks like freaking butter. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, at 2.8, it's tack sharp. It's just a ridiculous lens. But I honestly think that let's say I was on a desert island, and I could only have one lens, it would be the 50. It would be a 50. I mean, I like the 50 millimeter 1.2 L lens that I have. I think it's fucking amazing.
Yep.
But any 50, whether it be a 51.4, 51.8, a 52.0, I think the 50 millimeter is the perfect focal length for for nailing everything.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's a little bit telephoto for, doing architecture or photographing a car. Means you have to kind of move yourself around.
Right.
But for portraits, for so many things, it's so incredibly versatile. And I think that, we were talking about how you can task yourself to just take your camera and turn off the screen so you don't chimp. Or maybe just go out and shoot a roll of film so you kind of learn, how to do things more manually. I often recommend to new photographers that are like, oh, what camera should I get? What lens should I get? I tell them to get a decent body and get a 50 millimeter lens. Whatever it be, a 1.8, a 1.4, whatever they can afford.
Why not a 35?
I just feel like the 50, that is the normal, that is kind of like what your eyes see.
Okay.
And once you learn 50 millimeters, once you know what a 50 millimeter frame is, and you can literally put your camera up to your face and what's going to be in that frame.
Yeah.
And it's a really good focal length. It's a great exercise because you know that you can go out there and no matter where you are and what you're doing, you're going to know that, okay, you know what, that's going to be my frame.
Right.
That's going to be my frame.
Huh.
Whereas when you're relying on a zoom, you can just change that shit all the time.
Yeah.
You don't even have to move.
Yep.
So there you go. I mean, do you have a favorite lens?
Well,
you're a different animal.
I'm a different animal, and I'm much. I came to shooting by way of being an editor first. Even though I took photography in high school, and that was sort of my intro to this stuff. And
right.
I was shooting in film at that point because I'm an old dude, but now for my video stuff, if I'm not using a fixed lens situation like my Sony EX1 or something like that.
Right.
I'm using the 5D. The 24-105
Yep.
Is a great standard lens for shooting video to run around and do all the crap you got to do. But I told you I did get the Zeiss 50 millimeter.
Yep.
And
but okay, let's do the desert island thing. You're on a desert island. You've got one camera.
For what I do, if I got one camera and I got one lens, it'd probably be the 24-105.
Okay.
Because
as a video
dude, right? I got to run around. I got to get a lot of different things. If I got to sort of hide in the corner and be able to zoom in on someone, be unobtrusive.
Yep.
Documentary style type stuff. 24-105. I mean, the butter lens.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic lens. Great lens for interviews. I mean, hell, you pair that lens, 2 camera system. You do that lens with another 5D with a 50.
Yep, or 24-70.
Or 24-70, gorgeous.
I love my 24-70.
Great,
I think it's ridiculous.
Great pairing, A lot of good stuff to cut with there.
It's like a fine wine with a nice cut of tofu.
This, exactly.
And then with your tofurkey.
A piece of tofu.
Oh, I'm just going to shout out to the little vegan
The vegan friend,
there.
yeah. Can I give the shout out to the
please
vegan?
do, yeah.
I want to thank our vegan audience member for writing in
members.
or members, if there are multiple members of you out there who love our furry animals out there. We were talking about Adam's beautiful strap, and I will say it was a beautiful strap.
Oh, the camera strap.
The camera strap. That's what prompted that.
The one the E3 Supply Co. made for me.
Yes, exactly. That I said was kind of like a Telecaster strap.
Yeah.
Now I am a vegan, my friends, and for you that commented, I appreciate you putting that out there. I can sort of appreciate something like that.
Yeah.
But I would not, I wouldn't pay for that.
No. Look, I get it. Yeah.
If it was still in my arsenal, from when I was not a vegan, I wouldn't get rid of it.
I mean, I totally get the whole vegan thing.
Yeah.
I was a vegetarian for many years, or pescatarian. I just did.
That.
But when you really start thinking about the impact, I mean, we don't have to get into the whole vegan discussion because we could roll 4 hours of this shit. But I have tremendous respect for the vegan lifestyle.
Yeah, just wanted to give them a shout out.
Yes, I'm married to a vegan. My wife is a vegan.
As I am as well.
So I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so. Fight the power.
Let's just see what else we got over here. You were talking about what about this thing? This thing right here.
Oh, that's a nice one.
All right.
Let's dig into that.
The power of no.
You're fired up about this one.
This little segment I'm calling "Turning Down Work." What are you, crazy? Why would anybody ever turn down work? Why would you turn down work? Somebody's offering you a job. It's a paying job.
Because you know in your heart you're going to get fucked.
That's severe.
Right?
That's harsh.
You know you're going to get fucked. Well, you know it's not right.
Let's drill into this little thing for a little bit. I mean, look, there's a lot of you guys out there that are professional working photographers. There's a lot of you guys out there.
And videographers.
And filmmakers. I'm sorry, I don't mean to leave out my buddy over here. No, look, there's a lot of you guys that are out there making content, whether it be film or video or music or whatever the hell it may be, or, right?
A podcast.
And we all get offered, or you're starting your business, and you're at that, in that inception point where people are offering you work and different kinds of terms for this work. And there are definitely cases where I turn down work, where Larry turns down work, and a lot of our friends will turn down work. And let's talk about it a little bit.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I call it the power of no.
I like that. Is this like resolutions versus?
Probably a little bit, but I think people are afraid to say no.
I agree, and I think that's a phenomenal point.
And it's in two places. It's one, to turn down a job because everyone's got to work and you got to pay your bills and you're freaked out and stuff like that.
Right.
So one is turning down a job, and the other one is knowing when to walk away from something.
So let's give some examples here.
Okay.
Give me some examples, and they could be broad stroke or they could be actual anecdotal.
All right, well, so as I've gotten, let's talk about, turning down a job.
Okay.
Right, for me, as I've gotten older, my criteria for the type of job I would want to take or I'm willing to take, given the job's parameters, being the budget and the turnaround time and who I'm going to work with and stuff like that, I start weighing those things. Right, and it's like, okay, well, they don't have a lot of money, but it's for a really great cause, and it's really cool people, or it's a killer musical project that I want to be involved in. Okay, and they're not going to bust my balls to have it done in 24 hours, whatever it is. I would consider that. I would take that job.
Absolutely.
Right? Conversely, they're going to pay a lot of money. It's for some corporate, greed mongler. Right?
Mongler. Is it like a monger with a bell?
It is. And I can just tell that they're going to be rough and they want it right now. I don't know, maybe I'm at the point in my life where there is no job that I wouldn't turn down.
Wow.
Honestly.
I could use the windows touched up a little bit there, a little dirty.
No job I wouldn't turn down.
Oh, I see.
Right. No job I would turn down. There's no job I would
not
turn down.
What are you saying?
I have no idea. Because it becomes a point where it's not worth it. It's not. I'd rather not have the money to pay a bill, but take that time to work on a proposal for something that I want to do, or put my heart into something. than get my ass kicked.
Well,
again.
you know what?
It's hard enough. Here's the deal, man. No, it's okay. Now you got me fired up.
All right, let
it's
it out.
hard enough out there, right?
Right.
Being a filmmaking pimp.
Yep.
That to then get your balls busted for it, it's just not worth it.
Well,
I have to spend time with my family.
I have criterion. There's three things that are important to me, and I've talked about this, as far as whether or not to take a job. Am I getting paid?
Yeah. Usually
making it worth my while.
Yeah.
Do I have any kind of creative control? Meaning, am I going to be able to realize, my creative vision in this endeavor so that I can put my stamp on it? And is it something that I can use to market? Meaning, like, can I put it in my portfolio? Can I put it on social media? Can I use this thing as a marketing tool? If one or more of these things are checked off, and the job looks pretty good and somebody I really want to work with, it's usually a reason to take the job.
Yeah.
If two or more of these things,
you're in.
That's pretty good.
Right.
If all three are touched, there's not even a question about it.
Let me just jump in there one more second. I love those three. I basically use those three as well.
Yeah.
I add a fourth, which is, am I going to learn from either the situation or the people I'm working with?
You're a fucking hippie.
Am I gonna pick up
that's number two.
Extra?
That's the creative thing. That's where, do you have creative input where your brain is stimulated?
Well, but learning something and having creative input, it's slightly two different things.
You want to arm wrestle?
Let's do it.
All right. No, I think that's fantastic. So okay, we can look. I like the triangle. Now it's a box, a square. I mean, whatever the fuck you want to call the shape, the fucking thing. But no, when you have a chance to actually learn and to grow look, that is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Is that I know that we've talked about it before. I have not plateaued. I am not an expert at anything.
Right.
I'm learning every time I do a job. Every time I try anything out, even this podcast. It's always a learning process, and that's a huge component of it.
Yeah.
So let me bring in some examples.
Yeah, you have an example.
These are examples when you want to walk away. When you pitch to a client and the client says to you, well, we don't have a lot of money, but we'll give you a discount on the product. What the fuck? I had this happen to me. I had a huge brand. Okay, they're a startup brand. They've got a ton of fucking seed money. I wish I could tell you who they are, but I can't because I'm not that kind of guy. But they literally offered to pay me practically nothing. They wanted full creative control and all of the licensing rights to use this thing worldwide, globally, in perpetuity, in any kind of format, whether it be advertising, print, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And they offered me a tiny little bit of money and a discount on their insanely expensive product that I wouldn't be able to afford it even if I got a discount on it. So in a situation like that, I was like, yeah, you can go kind of fuck yourselves.
Right.
No, I keep things on the up and up. You never want to burn your bridges, okay? If a client offers you something and you feel like it's a shitty offer, it's business.
Right.
Okay, guys, you cannot take business personally. Yes, people are very, very strategic when it comes to business. People will offer you shitty deals because they want to see how much they can get away with. I mean, every business, look, I'm a businessman. I know that I always want to keep those endpoints as tight as possible.
Yeah.
So if I can get something for nothing or less, I'm going to try. Now, I'm not a douchebag, and I appreciate people's input and their hard work, but of course. But when a company comes to you and you know that they're going to use it for advertising, for marketing, for whatever it may be, and they're not willing to pay for it, and they're offering you a discount on a product
that you can't even afford,
thinking that you actually would want to buy the damn thing, that's like very arrogant and it's a bunch of horseshit.
Yeah, that's funny. I was up for a job last summer, and it was a lot of work. It was to create a lot of content over a weekend of an event.
Yep.
And I said, and the guy's laying it all out there. And granted, he had gotten burned previously with another production company, so he was a little scared.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, well, so what are you thinking? What's your budget? And he looked me dead in the eye and said, pro bono. I was like, 3 days of work? Like, pro bono drives me crazy. I will work on something pro bono again if I'm going to learn, if the people are good, if all those things.
If you can use it to market yourself.
If I can use it to market myself. But for you to assume that me as another human being should just give it up,
right?
Because you know, you may or may not have the money or whatever, or you're just trying to cut costs and you think that your thing is just so worth it. Oh, it drove me crazy.
Well, but there's a lot of, look, there's a lot of people that are willing to work for free because they want the experience, they want the association with the brand.
And there is a point where you need to be taking stuff for free, absolutely. Right. But you start getting up out of them 30s and 35 into your 40s, and it's like, hey. Hey.
Let me bring another thing into the mix. This is another one that I fucking hate, is when a client offers you a job and they offer it to you for like little or no money, and they say, look, if you do this job for me now, I will keep you in mind for future jobs. Fucking horseshit.
Yeah.
Okay? You have to pay me now. If you want to hire me in the future, that's fantastic. But right now, I have bills to pay. I can't bank on what you may do or may hire. I don't even know.
You may go out of business.
Exactly. I don't even know if you're going to be in business.
Yeah.
So I've had this happen to me. Like, I remember this guy, he was like a talent manager. You know, he dealt with like musicians and football players, like NFL guys, like real deal kind of thing. And he offered me a gig with like almost no money. And it was like, well, you know, look, if you do this one, you know, I will consider you for the future ones as well, because there's a lot of stuff coming up.
Right.
Bullshit.
Right.
You know, if you said, look, I will give you a 4-job commitment, okay?
Right.
There's an actual
in writing.
In writing.
Yeah.
A 4-job commitment. So look, this is the whole thing about the quick nickel versus the long dime. Sometimes you do a job because it's boom, quick money in your pocket.
Quick nickel versus the long dime. Never heard that.
Yeah, a buddy of mine taught me that years ago, and it's always stayed in there. The long dime is when you know that if you hang in there, you're going to ultimately make more money, but it's going to take you longer. Mm-hmm. So if somebody offers you a 4-job gig at a discount of what your per job gig would be, but ultimately you end up having 4 jobs in the books that pay decent good money,
that's
nice. That's nice.
That's
very nice.
Very nice.
But these bullshit false promises where people say, you know what, if you do this one for us now, or you do it for free, or if you do it for a discount, you know, we'll bring you into the next one. That almost never happens, people, because then they try to find another jackass, another joker that's going to work for free or less, and they're going to do it again and again and again because they realize that they can get away with it, because people are you know.
Well, and you also just never know what happens in that meantime, you know.
Of course.
Their cousin Sally's now a videographer, and they want them to do the thing. And
I've had that shit happen.
Like,
you know, where you're on deck with the client.
It's like they say in Goodfellas, "Fuck you, pay me."
There's a little morbid accent in there. A little.
Fuck you, pay me.
Yeah. Is that, yeah.
Can't pay the rent this month?
Is that the Joe
Fuck
Pesci?
You,
is
pay
that the Joe
me.
Pesci in you?
No, that's more the Ray Liotta.
Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
That guy's fucking scary on that
That guy's
film.
awesome.
Holy shit, he's good.
Yeah, he's real good. All right. Come here for all your cinematic needs.
And like the other
But then also, how about walking away? You're in the job, or you're in the middle of a project, or you've taken a project as far as you can. When do you get to the point where you're like, you know what? I've put everything into this that I possibly can, and now it's time to put it to bed.
I think in your business that's probably more prevalent because, you know, with filmmaking, it's a longer process.
Yeah.
You know, you go and you shoot, you know, A and B camera, you shoot B-roll, you shoot all the stuff. You got the audio, you got to mix it, you got to color, edit it. It's like, it's a fucking beast.
Yeah.
Photography, you know, we're typically in and out, whether it's a one-day or multi-day shoot. You know, it's more of a shoot and deliver kind of deal. I mean,
it's true.
The editing takes some time.
Yeah.
I can't say I've ever walked away from a job. I've certainly wanted to. I mean, I've been on jobs where it's like, you know, it's explained one way and then you show up and it's completely fucking different. The situation sucks. The people that you're working with suck. You just fucking hate being there.
Yeah.
But, you know, you suck it up and you just never work for them again.
Yeah. You ever been fired?
From a job?
Yeah.
I got into words with somebody on a job once, and it was just a communication issue, and I think the person had like probably ate a bad sandwich and, you know, had some like diarrhea or something in their pants.
Like a baby.
No, it was this festival that I was shooting, and like they wanted some like display shot, and I remember walking the festival, and it was like I should have had a fucking golf cart. I was like the next day I was literally like a Raggedy Andy doll.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing this display, and it was raining, and it just looked like a bunch of garbage, you know.
Right.
But it was actually like this whole like crafted thing, and it was like very thematic, and it was part of the thing. And you know, look, it was never really made clear.
Right.
You know, I take responsibility. I probably should have shot the fucking thing because it was there.
Right.
But to me, it looked like a bunch of garbage.
Right.
So I just didn't care about it. And at the end of the day, when I was asked about it, I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't know about that thing. You know, like the thing up there. I'm like, really? I was like, and they're like, this is so important. I can't fuck. And like, they fucking threw a fit. They didn't handle it professionally.
Wow.
And they threw a fit in front of the entire team and staff.
Oh, wow.
And that person was like literally yelling at me. Instead of saying, you know what, we need to talk.
Yeah.
Let's go over here. Look, one-on-one, totally.
Yeah.
But that just, I never worked for them again. I literally, I didn't even invoice them.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna. They did actually send me a check, but I didn't even want. I just couldn't even get myself to do it because I was like, I literally walked around this fucking shit for 12 hours.
Yeah.
This was like 7, 8 years ago.
Right.
And so that was a situation where I probably just said, I probably should have just said, fuck you.
Right.
But again, I was in the presence of the entire team
Yep.
of people, and I was like, I'm just gonna
Bite your tongue and
get the fuck out.
yeah.
You?
Twice.
Wow.
Yeah. Twice.
Any good story behind either one of them?
There's a good story behind the second one, but we're not going to go into it. But it was really, like a lot of the shit is miscommunication.
Give me a little bit of a taste of this thing. Just for people out there that might be experiencing this thing. You don't have to go into details and names. Just a little bit of a thing. What happened?
Well, I'll give you I'll tell you the first one.
Okay.
The first one, real quick, was I was working with a photographer, and I was in LA.
Was his name Adam Lerner?
His name was not Adam Lerner. And I was hired by a buddy of mine that I went to college with to do this job for him, for this photographer he was repping. I don't know what the hell he was doing, and it was some kind of travel thing. And the guy had taken huge. File size, I'm losing the language here, but his photos were big,
yeah.
Right? And he was trying to edit them on a laptop, and we were doing it in Final Cut Pro on a laptop, and this was,
10
like
years ago.
2005 or 6, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And as I'm working now, I was not as adept at keyframing as I am now.
Uh-huh. Keyframing
is like, he wanted to do that Ken Burns shit, right?
Which
so
is
slow moves.
For those people that don't know the lingo.
It's basically resizing and moving and putting motion on still images.
Right.
Or you can do it on video as well, but still images and
so
make
it looks
the
like the
picture
camera's
float.
panning around.
Yeah, it makes it's like pan and scanning
Okay.
type of thing. Okay, anyway. But every time I would double click on a photograph to pull it up, I'd get the spinning wheel of death.
Oh shit!
Right, because it was just like these images were so huge.
And it was just hogging too many resources.
And this dude, he was like, what's going on? It was his laptop. I brought my keyboard. When I edit, I bring my keyboard and my mouse because I just like my shit, my speakers.
It's got all your sticky stuff on it.
Not even. I just know my sticky shit, and
So he jumped down your throat.
He was getting very impatient. And it's like, well, I can't even edit because I'm getting the spinning wheel, dude, because the images are too big and this laptop is too slow. And
right.
What do you want me to do?
But it's your fault because you're the driver's seat.
But it was 3.5 hours, 4 hours of working like this. And then, okay, let's forget that part. Let's listen to this piece of music. Okay. I cue up the music. Okay, let's try this next piece of music. We do 5, 8 music tracks in a row. Let's go back to the first one. And we would do that for another, hour. He couldn't make up his mind about what he wanted musically. Right? And then I'd finally get like 1 or 2 images up to play with the music and put a little move on those so he could see, let's try this other piece of music. So he didn't really quite know what he wanted.
So
he was
happened?
Getting frustrated. So I left there and I was so stressed out. I remember it was up in Malibu and I was driving back to Hollywood, so tweaked, man, and feeling bad that I couldn't solve whatever the issues were.
Right.
And the next morning, my buddy that I went to college with called me. He's like, how you doing, man? And I was like, I'm good. It's a rough night, the guy, whatever. We're having some issues. He's like, well, to be honest, I think, we're going to just go ahead and bring it in-house and let my dude do it. And
so they let you go.
So he let me go. He's like, it's nothing personal, Bob. I'm like, well, if it wasn't anything fucking personal, I'd be driving back to Malibu today.
You know what?
But it was okay. And actually what it made me do was dig in a little deeper, like, and look sort of behind the scenes. Because at that point, I'd only been editing for a couple of years. So it's like, all right, well, what was causing that? And
you learned from it.
I learned from it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, look, there's situations.
And then consequently, I had a job doing the same sort of thing.
Yep.
A few years later, and I just fucking nailed it.
Yeah, I've been there too. I've had situations that were like, doomed to failure from the beginning, and oftentimes they end up being with people that you realize that maybe you shouldn't be working with.
Yeah.
Because they're difficult people, and you're never going to please them, and you're always going to have like this weird kind of acrimony or push and pull.
Yep.
You're never going to see eye to eye.
Yep.
And ultimately, even if you got a few jobs under your belt, sometimes you just, I've had to let go of clients. I've had to not necessarily fire them, per se, but I have a good story about that. I remember this guy. Holy shit, man! I shot these headshots for this guy, and it was like a referral through a friend. And I wasn't kind of keen on it because it was like a family friend of a friend of mine. And I was like, it's like his uncle, and it's a little bit weird. And I did the job, and it went fine. And then he's like, I like the way you did that. I need headshots, professional headshots. And I went to his apartment, and I brought an assistant, and we lit it up, and it was beautiful. And this guy was like impossible to deal with. I mean, he was like one of those guys that decided to become a director on set.
Right.
He was like the fucking DP, and I had to keep writing him down, and he was really nervous, and he kept walking on and off of set, and he was like sweating, and then he was like changing his shirt, and then he's like, I need to take this call, and he'd go for 30 fucking minutes on a call, and we're like, dude, like we're here to work right now.
Right.
And it was like this kind of like long, tedious, kind of annoying day.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get the photos in the computer. I do like the rough edit to get him the gallery of selects for choosing, so that he can choose his the ones that he likes, and then and he sends me like a 12-page contract that he pulled off the internet, basically indemnifying me from the shoot so that I have absolutely no rights to these photographs, that he needs to be the sole owner of the copyright of these things, that I cannot post them anywhere. I mean, it was like basically he just like gave me this doctrine.
Right.
This is after the thing was shot, after we'd agreed on the whole thing.
Wow.
So I ended up calling the guy and I said, look, here's what's going to happen. I said, I'm going to delete these photos from my hard drive. And we don't ever have to be in touch again. I'm just going to chalk this one up to experience.
Yeah.
And I hung up the phone. And the guy's like, because he was like saying stuff like, well, if you don't sign this thing, I'm just going to go to a local photography studio and have the photos taken. And I said, fine, good luck with that. That's great. Go ahead. That's fine. I'm done with this. This shit went back and forth, and I'm like, he was a fucking joker. He kept trying to like intimidate me because I think he was one of those rich guys.
Yeah.
And look, no offense against it, but he's just one of those spoiled baby guys with a lot of money
Yep.
who was always used to throwing money and power against people that are service people.
God, that sounds familiar.
Anyway, long story short, he finally, decided. So I finally decided. So I left it like I'm deleting the photos. So then he calls me back and said, look, I will pay you for the photos if you give me the photos. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I ended up giving him the raw files. And I said, look, I'll give you the raw files if you pay me X amount of dollars. I'm not signing anything, and I'm never going to use these because I never even want to look at them again.
Right.
And we were done.
Wow.
I mean, it's weird that it even got to that point, but because he was like my friend's uncle.
Yeah, you felt like you had to be a little right.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't believe it because my buddy is a freaking awesome dude.
Right.
And like the few times like I've been out to dinner with him and his uncle, and the guy seemed like a decent guy. Anyway, so people are fucking weird, and that's a situation where you got to stick to your guns and don't let people fucking strong arm you.
Right.
And intimidate you.
And the truth is, like, when you stand up for yourself, you will get some respect.
That's the thing.
And if you don't get it from them, you will respect yourself.
That's the thing. If I just been a pushover, this guy would have thought like, okay, Adam's a fucking wuss, and I can just get what I want with people because that's what I do. And I stood up and I got what I wanted.
Nice. All right. Well, I think we've covered the power of no.
I'm a little worked up actually.
I'm fucking so fired up.
And
right
the thing
now.
that I didn't tell you about it is that I saw this guy's true colors because the event that I shot for him was like a family party that he had.
Yeah.
And he treated the service staff like they were second-class citizens.
Yeah, that's
and they were the loveliest people. And look, I treat anybody who, I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You're a freaking ditch digger. Yeah. You're a cab driver. Like, I treat humans like humans. Everyone's got a story. Everyone's got a conversation. Yeah. And everyone deserves respect. And you know, I guess I was just another service person to this.
When I was single, I used to use that as like a barometer of the person I was dating.
Right, see how they treat, that's fantastic.
See if you're nice to the waiter or waitress.
I like that.
You know?
I like that.
People like that.
Yeah.
If you're not.
Yeah, that just, there's stories there, but we're gonna wrap that. I think
we've got a nice button on that.
Yeah.
But I think part of that we were just talking about, when to say no and how to say no and how to deal in those situations, comes out of your experience, and which again, you know, goes back to what kind of experiences you've had. And one of the questions that has popped up for both of us in our career and through doing this and whatnot is
like social media and YouTube.
Social media. Thank you. Social media, YouTube, Facebook, all these channels is, should I go to college?
Yeah.
Should I go to college in general? Should I specialize and go to an art school if I want to get into one of these things, or a film school?
Should I go to study photography?
Right, all that stuff.
Filmmaking.
And
yeah, we just actually had a listener or a subscriber.
We had somebody ask.
But it's happened, like, this is a recurring question that I get often.
And again, I'm old. Why do I keep referencing how old I am? I'm a young man.
Well, because there's a lot of folks that are following us are younger folks that are kind of starting out their careers. And a lot of people are getting into photography and filmmaking, even as older people, because the barrier for entry is a lot lower now.
Yeah. I think my short answer is, yes, go to college.
What is the question? Let's start with the question.
The question is, should I go to college? I think I found what I want to do. I want to be a photographer. I want to be a filmmaker. I want to be whatever.
So should you go to college and specify?
Should I go to college
for
and either specify in one of those things, or go to or go spend those 4 years in college when I could be in New York or LA or Paris?
I think the question is more is, should I go to photography school? Like, because there's like the Brooks Institute in California. There's Antonelli in Philly.
Yeah.
It's the same question. Like, I remember, as a guitar player, like thinking about going to Berkeley for music. I don't think I was ever necessarily good enough for that. But then it kind of locks you into a very specific. It's like getting an MFA.
All right. See, I interpreted the question a little differently.
Well, we can go global. Let's go specific first. I think that getting a very, like, for example, you get an MFA in acting or poetry or creative writing or whatever it is, like, that's a very tough business to crack into. Just like getting a degree in photography. Yeah. It's a tough business to crack into. Now,
so yeah, I mean, I would say, if you're going to specify in photography or one of those things, maybe you could minor in something unrelated to just give you a little extra something.
Well, interestingly, I was a psych major with a photography minor, which, kind of worked out, I guess, because there's a lot of psychology in what I do. I mean, a lot of times when I'm on set and shooting portraits, I'm really kind of getting into the head of somebody, trying to get them to relax, trying to get them to connect, trying to help, tell that story.
But what's your impulse answer? Should I go to photo school?
Oh, well, I think it's a tough thing to say. Here's what I think. If you're going to be in a photography program or a filmmaking program, number one, you're going to be with like-minded people. You're probably going to be exposed to cutting-edge technology, methodology, editing techniques. You're probably going to have access to a lot of things. Your brain's going to be stimulated to go out there and create things because you're going to be in this program and you're going to have to be sharing this stuff with your peers. You're potentially going to have more access to photographers and photo studios and photo opportunities with employment because of your affiliation by going to a photography school, particularly if you're in the city, I would imagine. Like if you go to like a school in New York or in Philly or San Francisco, whatever, there certainly are opportunities for young photographers. And like, I'll say for myself, like if I'm looking to hire an assistant, and this is not an ageist thing, but I would much rather hire like a 20-something-year-old kid as an assistant than an assistant that's in their 40s. Now, the only reason for that is because I know that 20-something-year-old kid is going to be a lot hungrier. They're going to have a lot more energy. They're probably not going to have a lot of other they're not going to have probably a lot of personal responsibilities as far as like, you know, mortgage and family stuff and whatever. And I do not discriminate against any of those kind of things, but when you need somebody to be on set that's affordable, that will fucking hustle and wants to learn and is really eager and excited about it, you know, I think that that's a great pool to draw from. So whether or not going to photography school, I don't know. Look, I didn't go to a formal photography program. I mean, I did study photography. I did minor in it. So I don't know. I don't exactly know the question. I mean, I think that right now with the current economy the way it is, I would say this: that if you're deciding to go to photography or film school, if you can't afford to pay for school and you know you're going to come out of school with tens of thousands or more of student loan debt, getting into photography is going to be a tough way to pay back that debt, only because typically when you come out of school and you're assisting, you're working for free or very little money, and it can take a long while before you get to that point where you have actual paying jobs, and it's a very competitive market. The barrier for entry is very low, as we've talked about. So you got mommies and dads, you know, that are just like, hey, you know, I want a career change, or, you know, I really like doing photography, and the newspaper published some stuff, and then a friend of mine asked me to do their wedding, and like, hey, I could start a photography business. So it's a really difficult question, and I don't know if I have the answer for it. I mean, I've seen friends of mine who've come out of film school and photography school do amazing things. But that was a different time, you know? So in this current day and age, in this environment, I would say study it. I would say if you can minor in it, like you said, or maybe you can, you know, take other classes as well, take some business classes for sure with it, because it's one thing to be a good photographer, it's another thing to be a good business person. And running the business of your photography business or filmmaking business is a huge component. So I don't know. What do you think? Anything else?
I was fortunate enough to go to a small liberal arts college. And I was a speech and theater major because I wanted to be an actor, you know? And that afforded me, every day that I was at that university, I wanted to get to New York and hit the boards, you know?
What does that mean?
Be on stage.
Okay.
You know, be a Shakespearean actor. That's what I wanted to do, right? I studied in that school afforded me the opportunity to study in London.
Now, did you have to wear fancy pants to go to
Very fancy pants. And it afforded me that opportunity. It afforded me to study Shakespeare in Lenox, Mass. at Shakespeare and Company, right? It opened up a lot of things. But I couldn't wait to get the fuck out. So much so that I graduated a semester early.
The fuck out of where? What town were you in?
I was in Canton. I was in Canton, New York.
Canton, New York.
Canton, New York. There's only one
small...
small...
Is that like a Hudson Valley town, or...?
No, it's further up. It's near the St. Lawrence River.
Jesus Christ, so you're practically in Canada.
30 minutes from Montreal.
There's a big scene up there. There's a lot going on right up there.
Tons going on.
Well, you could pop into Montreal. That's a kind of a cool city.
Yeah, everything. You're in this pocket of a 2-hour radius
of everything.
Burlington and Montreal, and then
you're 2 hours from Burlington,
Syracuse or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so you were a little isolated.
Yeah, so you're a little isolated up there. That was part of it too. I'm sure if I went to a bigger school, maybe I wouldn't have had the same feelings. But I also wanted to get to New York and act, and so I graduated a semester earlier to do that. But here's the thing. You know, when you're in school and you're learning your craft, the bottom line is this shit ain't easy.
Right.
This is not easy what we do. And if you think at 18 years old you're gonna put down your bag at LA and someone's gonna hire you to be their DP or, you know, be on set with them, whatever, it's not.
It's who you know.
Unless you're a fucking wunderkind. Unless you're the 1%.
Right.
You know. It's not going to happen that way. And it is who you know. And that's the other thing that college is great for.
That's what I was getting at.
Because, you know, a lot of these schools, especially professional schools, you know, where you're going for a trade or something like that, they have alumni networks that you can call on. You don't know the opportunity. You don't know the summer intern job you're going to get. You don't know who your roommate's going to be, who might be studying something completely different. He could be an econ major, but his dad
is an advertising agency,
right, and boom.
Or his dad's a famous photographer.
His dad's a famous photographer and takes a shine to you, and you've got yourself a summer intern job. So my gut answer is, if you've got the dough, or you've got a plan to pay back that dough when you come out, go to college.
Yeah.
It's 4 years. Make it 3.5. Bust your balls doing 3. I don't care.
But a lot of these schools are 2-year colleges too.
Well, then do it. Do that. But I think go, because it's also going to force you to read some books on the masters that you're not probably going to pick up for another 15 years until you get old. You're like, I should read a book about this person. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the tough thing is you've got these tech giants that have made huge careers for themselves without college
1%.
degrees.
1%ers.
But those are the ones that get all the attention.
Well, of course.
And I think that
the rest of the 99% of us are out there slogging it off.
Well, here's what I think. I think that unless you're going to go and work for a photographer as their assistant for the next 20 years, unless you're going to be a career person, like in a corporate kind of environment.
Unless Annie Leibovitz you're going to go work for her at 19 years old.
And then in 10 years, you're going to have your own business.
Yeah, then go to school.
Well, the point that I'm trying to make is that if you're going to make it as a photographer, you're automatically going into becoming an entrepreneur. If you're the kind of person that needs to know exactly where their paycheck is coming from, how much they're getting paid every week, what the levels of opportunity for growth are going to be, your paid time off, you don't really want to work nights and weekends, blah, blah, blah. You have all these other distractions. Being a photographer or filmmaker is maybe not your thing because there is no set schedule necessarily for it.
Right.
It really is a full-time, 24/7 job, and at times it cuts into a lot of other things. And that's just how the business goes. I mean, I get emailed from clients and called from clients all hours of the day, all days of the week. Holidays, doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's part of the business, and I think we both accept that. So there it is. I don't know if we can't really give you guys an answer. I guess the answer is definitely study, definitely go to school, find an internship, find a mentor, get to work.
Network your balls off.
Network your balls off.
Respect everybody on the way up.
Yep. Well, just ask questions.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. I tell people that come in and work for me, it's there's no stupid question. You don't know how to do something. I would rather you ask me that question than go and try to do it and fuck it up.
Right.
Or hold the shoot back.
Right. Or break a piece of my gear.
Dude, I've had that happen. I had an assistant years ago.
Yeah.
And I called her Box of Rocks. I mean, seriously, she showed up. She didn't even know how to open up a light stand.
Wow.
And she talked herself up a good game. And, she had really good social media stuff, with whatever, a lot of nice, she was able to take photos, but didn't know any of the technical aspects of it. Which is fine. I mean, look, some people have gotten that way, but I don't know, I don't want to be a dick, but she didn't pay her dues. She just kind of got into this thing, had a huge social media following, but never did the work up until that point.
Well, can we just digress for 1 second on this whole idea of paying your dues and what that means? Because in a lot of places, in studios in England, right, recording studios, right, it was you'd have to make the tea for the director or the producer, right?
Yeah, you'd be
now
lowest.
It's right, you're someone's PA, you're a production assistant or a producer assistant, and pretty much you're just going to be getting their dry cleaning, and you're going to be making their coffee and picking up their Starbucks and stuff like that, right? And if you're a young kid, you're like, what the fuck am I doing, man? I went to school, I got a degree, why am I doing this?
And I've got $150,000 in student loans.
Here's the fucking secret. Figure out how to pick up that dry cleaning perfectly, how to remember that Starbucks. In fact, don't even remember it. Write it down. Carry a pad and a pencil with you, because that's what they're looking for.
Right.
That's what you're looking for. You're looking for someone who, when you ask them to do something, they've listened, they paid attention, and then they execute it.
Absolutely.
And then, when you do that enough times, then you get the next little nugget, and the next nugget, and the next thing you know, they're like, listen, I need you to come along, or I can't be at this shoot, or whatever it is. I need you to set up the deal.
Look, I've had assistants that I've given jobs to for different reasons, because I know that they can execute it, and I know that if I send them in my absence, that they're going to get the thing done. And then I've had plenty of assistants where I was like, this dude breaks a lot of gear.
Yeah.
He's always got some fucking problem with the trains. Trains aren't running. It's like, dude, I'm taking the same.
I gotta just give this kid a shout out. and I won't say his name, but I had an intern last summer.
Yep.
Once a week, I had a shoot doing a single camera video podcast for somebody, right? And this kid showed up. He's a friend of my parents, and he was on time. What can I do? Is there anything you need? What can I do? He had water. I didn't even ask him to do half the shit. He had water for the person that we were filming. He'd take care of her, and he'd come back to me. What do you need? So I can do blah, blah, blah. This kid is now going on. He's one of the youngest people to work at NBC News.
Right.
And now he runs the weekend show.
That's phenomenal.
Right?
Right.
A year later, he's 22.
Well, that's the thing. It's like
old.
you cannot go into any kind of a situation with a sense of entitlement. You have to go and be humble. Like even now, like when I'm on a shoot and I'm the photographer and I've got this huge, crew of people that I'm kind of responsible for. I still go in with a level of humility.
Yeah.
I realize that I'm the strongest of the sum of my parts. It's like my team is important to me.
Right.
If I treat people like an asshole, if I'm a fucking douchebag, that shit's gonna roll downhill. And then that person's gonna treat that person like a douchebag, and then the whole vibe on set's gonna suck.
Well, it's a room full of douchebags.
That's right.
We don't want that.
We don't need that.
What else we got?
What else we got? I don't know. I mean, I think that
I think we hit a lot of the main points.
I think we hit this shit.
Episode,
you know what
right?
we didn't do? We didn't give a shout out to our sponsor, Squarespace.
No.
First of all, guys, Squarespace is awesome. You guys know how much I love Squarespace. I keep my portfolio up there. It looks fantastic. It's so easy to upload and manage photos. I know that you use Squarespace on a bunch of your projects as well.
Yep.
And if any of you guys are looking to build a Squarespace website and you want to save 10%, just use the code ADAM, A-D-A-M, or use the link squarespace.com/Adam, and you will save 10% on the first year of your Squarespace website, which is awesome. Because who doesn't like to save money?
Who doesn't?
No, it's good stuff.
We all do.
We also want to thank you guys for watching. We couldn't do this without you. We definitely encourage feedback and support, because obviously this is a community.
Keep those questions coming.
Yeah,
Let
us know how we're doing.
Yeah.
We're really excited about doing this, and we're going to keep pushing on. So I would say that's it for now, and we'll see you soon.